Live from London, this is BBC News. A gust of 114 miles per hour recorded as Storm Eowyn reaches Ireland and the UK. A red danger to life warning is enforced across the entire island of Ireland, the Isle of Man and later for parts of Scotland, with schools and public transport shut down.
The authorities say they're prepared for today, as prepared as they can be, but they're asking people to make their own preparations too. Two key messages: stay at home and don't travel to stay safe today.
This is the scene at Tadhg in Scotland. The Met Office says the storm will bring very dangerous driving conditions with fallen trees on roads. We'll bring you all the latest as the storm sweeps across the region. Also coming up, a judge temporarily blocks President Trump's order to end automatic citizenship for babies born in the US, calling it blatantly unconstitutional. And firefighters continue to battle 3 new wildfires in and around Los Angeles. Officials say containment efforts appear to be working. Hello and welcome. This is BBC News. I'm Catherine Byaruhanga. Millions have been urged to stay at home as Storm Eowyn is bringing potential life-threatening winds to Ireland and the UK. The Met Office has issued a rare red weather warning for Northern Ireland and the Scottish Central Belt, which means a danger to life. David, thank you. That's our correspondent David Wallace-Lockhart, who's in Glasgow for us. And just a reminder of the news coming in from Ireland. Of course, the Republic of Ireland has been hardest hit by Storm Eowyn so far. Record wind speeds of 114 miles per hour have been recorded at Mace Head in Galway. And of course, we'll continue to follow developments around Storm Eowyn. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Hello, you're live with BBC News. To the United States now, and what could become a major clash between the White House and the courts. Within hours of taking office, President Trump signed a series of executive orders, including one designed to bring an end to what's called birthright citizenship, the legal right to citizenship for all children born in the United States, regardless of parentage. Let's leave you with some of the live pictures coming in from across the UK, areas affected by Storm Eowyn. This is Ballyholme in Northern Ireland. Of course, the red weather alert there came into effect 26 minutes ago. Schools across the country there have been closed. And this here is Bayslock in the northwest of Scotland. Already we're hearing that most flights have been cancelled at Edinburgh and Glasgow airports. And this here is our live page with all the very latest. You're watching BBC News, stay with us.
Make in America or face the consequences. Donald Trump talks tough on trade at the World Economic Forum in Davos. US stocks have hit a record high after President Trump said he'd demand an immediate drop in the cost of borrowing. And no pay, no stay. Edinburgh will decide on a new 5% tourist tax later. Hospitality businesses are worried it will put tourists off. Live from London, this is Business Today. I'm Tadhg Enright. Welcome to the programme. The newly returned US President Donald Trump has been speaking to the World Economic Forum in Davos. In a virtual address, he warned his fellow leaders that international companies must manufacture in America or face tariffs. It was a wide-ranging speech in which he also promised to cut the US corporate tax rate to 15% for those companies that do make in America. He also criticised the European Union, saying its tariffs are too high. Neil Bradley there from the US Chambers of Commerce. And if you want to hear more about what President Trump's plans could mean for the US economy and the rest of the world, well then tune in to Talking Business this weekend right here on BBC News, the first edition airing at 22:30 GMT tonight. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Welcome back to Business Today. The interest rate in Japan, which is the world's fourth largest economy, has been increased to 0.5%, its highest level since 2008. Japan has been quite an economic outlier for a generation now. Unlike other major economies, it's been battling with deflation, and that's kept the cost of borrowing there extremely low. And we'll bring you Edinburgh's decision on a tourist tax when they make it. In other business today, the UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves has said that plans to abolish non-dom tax status for people with high incomes earned overseas will be amended. She told the World Economic Forum in Davos that they would increase the generosity of the phasing out process, which will help non-doms to repatriate their overseas funds to the UK before the new plans come into effect. Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family, who once controlled it, have agreed to pay up to $7.4 billion to settle claims over its powerful painkiller OxyContin. It is an increase of more than $1 billion over a previous settlement that was rejected in 2024 by the US Supreme Court. OxyContin's been blamed for supercharging the deadly opioid crisis in America. That's it. Bye-bye. Now, the Oscar nominations are out, with The Brutalist being one of this year's most nominated films, with 10 nods, including Best Film and Best Actor for Adrien Brody. He's hoping for a second Academy Award after winning in 2003 for The Pianist. Our entertainment correspondent, Lizo Mazimba, has been speaking to the cast. Winds of record strength are hitting Ireland, and Storm Éowyn is on its way to the UK. Here's a look at the weather now with Louise Lear.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Trains cancelled, schools shut, and millions have been told to stay home as Storm Éowyn batters the UK and Ireland. A red danger to life warning is enforced across the entire island of Ireland, the Isle of Man, and later for parts of Scotland. A gust of 114 miles per hour has been recorded.
The authorities say they're prepared for today, as prepared as they can be, but they're asking people to make their own preparations too. Two key messages: stay at home and don't travel to stay safe today.
This here is the scene at Tadhg in Scotland. There are already reports of trees coming down on the railway. We'll bring you all the latest as the storm sweeps across the region. Also coming up, a judge temporarily blocks President Trump's order to end automatic citizenship for babies born in the US, calling it blatantly unconstitutional. The UN says the need for aid in Gaza is staggering as Palestinians returning to their destroyed homes following Sunday's ceasefire. Donald Trump has signed an executive order declassifying files on the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Bobby Kennedy, and the civil rights leader Martin Luther King. Hello, you're live with BBC News. I'm Catherine Byaruhanga. Millions have been urged to stay home as Storm Éowyn brings potentially life-threatening winds to the UK and Ireland. The Met Office has issued a rare red weather warning for Northern Ireland and the Scottish Central Belt, which means a danger to life. 4.5 million people received an emergency phone alert. Many schools and large parts of the transport network will be closed in these areas. Jake Kelly, Managing Director of Network Rail Eastern Region, thank you for joining us on BBC News. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. You're live with BBC News. Now, here in the UK, there are mounting calls for a change to the law after a teenager who killed 3 young girls at a dance class avoided a whole life sentence because he was 9 days too young. Axel Rudakubana, who was 17 at the time of the attack, will instead spend a minimum of 52 years behind bars. While the families will always remember the events that unfolded on the 29th of July, so too will the people who live in Southport. Roger Johnson went back to the town this week. Before we go, a reminder of our top story, which is Storm Éowyn, which is battering parts of the UK. This is Largs in Scotland. Neighbouring Ireland is the worst affected, with record wind speeds having been recorded there. You're watching BBC News. Hello, this is BBC News, the headlines. Trains cancelled, schools shut and millions are told to stay home as Storm Éowyn batters the UK and Ireland. A red danger to life warning is enforced across the entire island of Ireland, the Isle of Man and later for parts of Scotland. A record gust of 114 miles per hour has been recorded. This is the scene at Largs in Scotland. There are already reports of trees coming down on the railway. And we hear from one of the youngest survivors from the Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland as the 80th anniversary of its liberation approaches. Hello, I'm Catherine Byaruhanga. Now let's focus on the top business stories. For that, it's over to Tadhg Enright. Hi, Tadhg.
Catherine, thank you very much. Now, the newly returned US President Donald Trump has warned that companies that don't manufacture in the United States will face tariffs. In a wide-ranging virtual speech to the World Economic Forum in Davos, President Trump also promised to cut the US corporate tax rate to 15% for those companies that do make in America. Mariko Oy there. In other business today, the UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves has said the plans to abolish non-dom tax status for people with high incomes that are earned overseas will be softened to allow a more generous phasing out of the tax benefit. Reeves told the World Economic Forum in Davos that changes would be made to the legislation to increase the generosity of a facility to help those non-doms repatriate their funds to the UK before the changes take effect. Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family that once controlled it have agreed to pay up to $7.4 billion to settle claims over its powerful painkiller OxyContin. It's an increase of more than $1 billion over a previous settlement that was rejected in 2024 by the US Supreme Court. OxyContin has been blamed for supercharging the deadly opioid crisis in America. And the high-end fashion brand Burberry has reported a 4% drop in sales in the 3 months to December, beating market expectations. Sales in the Americas rose but continued to fall in the Asia-Pacific region. They were 7% lower in China, one of Burberry's biggest markets. Burberry said it's acting with urgency to stabilise the business and position the brand for a return to sustainable, profitable growth. That's your business news. Back to you now, Catherine.
Thank you, Tadhg. Now let's get more on our top story. Millions have been urged to stay at home as Storm Éowyn brings potentially life-threatening winds to the UK and Ireland. The Met Office has issued a rare red weather warning for Northern Ireland and the Scottish Central Belt, which means a potential danger to life. 4.5 million people received an emergency phone alert. Many schools and large parts of the transport network will be closed in these areas. And let's bring you an update on the weather here in the UK. And these are live pictures from Largs in Scotland. And this, of course, is the coastal areas on the west coast of Scotland, one of the areas that will be worst affected by Storm Éowyn. As we're hearing earlier on in the programme, at the moment, all rail services have been stopped in Scotland because of the weather. Let's show you Ballyholme in Northern Ireland. And here we're hearing that more than 90,000 homes in Northern Ireland are without power at the moment. As our correspondent was telling us, every county in Northern Ireland at the moment is experiencing power disruptions. And let's show you Dublin. in Ireland. At the moment, Ireland is the worst affected region due to Storm Éowyn. You're watching BBC News. Stay with us.
Storm Éowyn is moving its way in from the west, and it's going to bring a very windy day wherever you are today.